John looked down at the broken walkie-talkie in his hand. "Unbelievable," he muttered. At least the flashlight still worked. He stopped and took a moment to collect himself. After all, he knew these forests as well as anyone. This could easily be the 1,000th time his group of friends have played manhunt in these very woods. Yet, somehow, he had got himself turned around. He decided to pick a direction and start walking. As he moved forward, he began to hear a voice. Quiet, distant. It must be his friends now looking for him. It had been too long, and at this point, they must be worried. He began walking towards the sound. It was a full moon tonight, and it was lighting up the snow and a few spaces between the trees, as best that it could. As he moved forward, the voice got a little more audible. He looked to his right and noticed 5 to 6 footprints that could have only been made from the feet of a small child. The funny thing was, they ended just as suddenly as they had began. With no signs of where they had come from or where they were going, he pressed on. A few moments later, he saw what he thought was a woman holding a lantern. Relieved to have found someone, he headed towards her. As he approached, he began to notice her clothing. She was dressed in what could only be described as old colonial clothing from the 1700s. He got a bit closer, and as he did, she turned to the side and screamed, "Lucy!" in what can only be described as a frantic, loud growl. Taken aback, John closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, the woman was gone. I'm Rob Coakley, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Princeton, Massachusetts. Nestled in the center of the state, Princeton was settled in 1743 and incorporated as a town in 1771. It's home to Wachusett Mountain, which is now used as a ski resort as well as a state reservation. The Westminster Spite Wall. Just a stone's throw over the line of Princeton into Westminster sits a 60-foot long, 11-foot tall wall made entirely out of spite. Edmund Proctor purchased his farm in 1852. Excited about the purchase, he was ready to get to work on the farm, and that's what he did. In fact, he was working 7 days a week at the farm. It turns out his neighbor, Farwell Morse, was not happy about Edmund working on Sundays. Farwell was a Puritan, and working on Sunday was strictly forbidden for him. The two quarreled often over this, and then Edmund decided to take action. He began to construct a wall directly in front of the farm to further antagonize Farwell. He kept adding and worked on this wall all the way until his death at the age of 71 in the year 1890. People close to the rock wall have heard the sounds of rocks loudly moving around in the area, then finding nothing that could have caused the noise. Some passerbys have even said they've seen an old man working on the wall, only for him to be nowhere in sight when they take a second glance in that direction. Redemption Rock. The story of Redemption Rock centers around a colonial woman named Mary Rowlandson. The King Phillips War was in full swing, and on February 10, 1676 during sunrise, the town of Lancaster came under attack by a group of Native Americans. They burned buildings and destroyed a bridge leading to the town to slow down the reinforcements that may come. In all, it is believed that 14 residents of Lancaster were killed and 23 were taken prisoner. Mary Rowlandson and her 3 children, Joseph, Mary, and Sarah, were among those taken captive. Sarah, just 6 years old at the time, was wounded during the raid, and within a few weeks, died from her wounds. For the next 3 months, Mary was constantly forced to move camp to camp, while barely getting enough food to survive. 11 weeks later, a meeting between her captors and a group of Puritans, including her husband, occurred at Redemption Rock. This is the site where a ransom of $20 was paid to release Mary, although her 2 surviving children wouldn't be released until later. The Mid-State Trail that runs from Rhode Island through Massachusetts and into New Hampshire passes right through Redemption Rock. Some hikers have claimed to see a group of people standing in front of the rock from a distance, only for nobody to be there when they get closer. Others have heard loud voices in the distance, even though they're alone. Are you brave enough to walk the trail to redemption rock? The Disappearance of Lucy Keyes. In May of 1751, Robert Keyes purchased 200 acres on the east side of Wachusett Mountain and quickly moved his family there from Shrewsbury. Over the next several years, they lived a quiet and by all accounts happy life, working to make their land a comfortable home. All of that changed on April 14, 1755. Early in the morning, Martha, wife of Robert, sent her two oldest daughters, Patty and Anna, 9 and 7 years old, to the nearby Wachusett Pond to get some sand for chores around the farm. Lucy, being much younger than her other two sisters, was told to stay home by her mother. Several hours later, Martha began to call for Lucy to come in, only to no avail. Frantic, Martha began to scream for her daughter to come home. Working in a field a short ways away, Robert heard the blood-curdling screams of his wife and rushed home. When he was finally able to get his wife calm enough to tell him what was going on, his other two daughters showed up from the pond. The parents asked if Lucy had went with them, and they responded that they hadn't seen her. Thinking that maybe Lucy tried following her sisters, Robert rushed to the pond to search, but this was to no avail. After this, Robert saddled his horse, got on, and rode to one of the closest neighbors that they had, which was still 4 miles away. This began the formation of one of the biggest search parties ever documented during this time period. Volunteers from all over came to help look for Lucy, but she was never found. That's when the speculation began on what happened to Lucy Keyes. Some believe that a local pack of wolves that had been heard in the area had gotten to Lucy. However, there was no trace of this, and surely as close as Martha was to the last known whereabouts of Lucy, she would have heard something like this. One of the other beliefs was that the local Native Americans had captured Lucy. The Keyes lived very close to Redemption Rock, and after all, this had happened in the past. Years later, traveling merchants had an encounter with a group of Native Americans on the border of Canada. Among them was a young white woman who barely spoke any English at all. When they asked her where she was from, all she could tell them was, Wachusett Mountain. Many believe this girl was Lucy Keyes. Then, there's the deathbed confession. A man named Tilly John was on his deathbed. While there, he stated that he couldn't die without confessing to a murder. He then began to tell the tale of the murder of Lucy Keyes. He stated that he was in a dispute about land with her father, Robert. On his way through the woods, he stumbled upon Lucy, all alone. In a fit of rage, he killed the girl by bashing her head against a log repeatedly. He immediately hid the body in a hollow log. When the search party began the next day, he offered to lead one of the groups so that he could keep them far away from Lucy's remains. Later that night, he went and moved her remains to a hole under a large stump, making the body undiscoverable to passerbys. A few days later, a group of searchers discovered what they thought to be a lock of Lucy's hair. This frightened little John, so much that he immediately went and joined the army. Everyone that knew him was perplexed because he had never shown any interest in doing so. He was discharged 6 months later and moved back to the area when he figured it was safe to do so, as the search for Lucy had stopped, with the exception of her family still searching. Whichever of these stories is true, what we do know for sure is that Robert and Martha never stopped searching for their daughter. This took a giant toll on Martha in particular, though. It said Martha became partly deranged and would just wander into the woods searching, crying out for her daughter. And this would continue until her death. But her death wouldn't be the end of Martha searching for her daughter Lucy. Many people have heard Martha crying out for Lucy, not only at night, but in the middle of the day, on the paths and in the woods surrounding Wachusett Mountain. Others have even claimed to have seen the footprints of a child when hearing these cries. Others, however, have heard more than just a cry for Lucy. They've actually seen the disheveled woman frantically searching and crying out for her daughter as she creeps through the woods. And when these people approach her to offer their assistance, she disappears just as quickly as she had appeared. We may never know what actually happened to Lucy Keyes, but what we do know is that her mother will never stop searching until she finds her.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. This is episode number 7 of Hometown Ghost Stories. I'm Jesse Wilkins, joined by Dave Wilkins and Rob Coakley.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
What's going on? That was the story of Lucy Keys
Poor
from
Lucy.
Princeton, Massachusetts.
Yeah, Princeton, Massachusetts, a place I did not know existed until maybe 3 weeks ago. Thought I knew every town in Massachusetts. Thought
No,
I had
You never
worked.
been to Wachusett?
Well, I've been to Wachusett, but I've never realized what town it was in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
same, absolutely same.
So I've definitely been to Wachusett, but I was never like, oh,
Okay. I'm going to Wachusett. Oh, you going to Princeton? No,
Yeah.
I'm going to Wachusett. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was not super familiar with the town of Princeton. Ended up going there 2 weeks ago to get some footage for the episode, and it's a nice little town. It's pretty cool. It's really it's a good throwback town. If you look at the thumbnail that Jesse created for this episode, that building on the thumbnail, like that castle looking building, is actually their town hall. So it's just
Pretty cool looking town hall.
yeah, it's a pretty cool town overall. So it was a nice town to go to. I know we're doing a lot of Massachusetts stuff, but I just stumbled across this story, so I felt as though instead of holding it, we should get this one out there.
Yeah,
Good. Well, the next,
it was cool.
the next four that we're doing are going to be on a state. So
all over the place. We just got back yesterday from Texas. We'll talk about that in a bit, but that was a whole experience. Lots to tell on that one. But the getting back to the Lucy Keys story. So,
Well, do you want to just start with the spite wall, because that was like my
yes,
my
Spite wall's
favorite
fun.
low-key.
I don't know how haunted the spite wall really is, but I mean, people said that they could still hear like rocks being like placed on the wall and slammed.
why does
around and stuff
everything
like that.
have to be haunted? It doesn't all have to be haunted.
It has to
I mean, I guess
be.
this is a ghost show.
Must be a funny wall. I don't know.
It has to be. Regardless of if it is or not, it's just the greatest story. I mean, it's not in Princeton, it's the next town over. It's literally a mile over the town line, maybe a mile and a half. But Westminster has nothing else. There are no other paranormal stories that I could find in Westminster. So I felt as though adding it to Princeton was appropriate, just because we're never going to hit Westminster. And I was like, what is this? I need to go see this. This was the hardest thing to track down. I couldn't find this freaking wall. I drove around for like half an hour trying to find this wall.
There was a plaque on it that was like, "This is the spite wall," right?
Yeah, but the road, it's one of those weird roads that it's just not like straight. It takes a left at an intersection.
Mhm.
So like you're going straight at the intersection, and then the road goes this way, and you're like, all right, but you don't know that there's no sign. There's no street sign for it. So that's why I couldn't find it. And I eventually, I watched a news clip while I was in my car, pulled over. And while watching the news clip, I had to look at a mailbox number to find this wall. That's like that's how I found it. So it's like
not that easy to find this place.
no. So I'm gonna come back as a ghost forever, searching for the spite wall once I die, because this was an ordeal.
The forever search, yeah. So
Yeah.
Martha Keys is going to be forever searching for Lucy, and Rob's ghost is being forever searching for the spite wall
Need to
again.
find the spite wall. But
Captain McSlugs, thank you for the gifted tier 1 sub. The Soph, welcome in.
so like this whole story is it just speaks to me on a personal level that this dude's like, his neighbor's just yelling at him about working on Sundays, and his rebuttal isn't to like keep fighting with him. He's like, I'm just gonna build the biggest fucking wall that I could ever build in my life, and just doesn't stop building it until the day he dies.
Yeah, that's funny. We've definitely had neighbors in the past that I would build a spite wall.
I have neighbors
Actually,
now,
Andrew, get on that. Oh yeah, you could definitely do that. Yeah,
We'll put a plaque up if you do it. But the whole thing is like the reason why like it's probably haunted is like I feel as though some of the hauntings you get tied to stuff that you do, and like this became such a life project for this guy. Like of course it would be one. If he were to haunt anything, it would either be his house or, I mean, the rock wall that he worked on for however many years, 30, 40 years. Like, I mean, so it just, it makes sense that it's haunted, or that people still hear him working on it or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I found that as the most random story. Like, it's so different from everything else that, you know, like from a house or from anything else that we cover. Like, that I just kind of had to throw that in there.
Yeah, you're right about that. So you touched on that. Did you touch on, was there a third story, or did you just go straight to the Keys after that?
The other one was Redemption Rock. So
Oh, yeah.
Redemption Rock it's in Princeton, obviously. Well, not obviously, since I did something in Westminster. But yeah, Mary Rowlandson, she wrote a whole article that got published everywhere, I think like 4 or 5 times, when she and her children were captured from raiding party of Native Americans during the King Phillips War, which a lot of the stuff that we go through in New England is always going to come back to that, just because that is like a gigantic historical event around here. And there's a lot of tragedy that is tied to that entire war. So she was captured with some of her children. One of her children died while she was captured because she was injured during the raid on the town. And she was with the group for 11 weeks before she was ransomed back to her husband. And the thing that like I found the most interesting about the ransom, which isn't tied to the ghost story, is he ransomed for his wife to get returned before his children, which was probably more a sign of the times, I'm sure. But, you know, like nowadays, nobody would ever ransom their wife before their children for the most part, right? I mean, you just never leave your children.
I guess it depends on the kids.
I guess so. But yeah, so basically what happened was she was with them in captivity for 11 weeks. She was treated poorly, according to her. She said they never like physically harmed her in any way. It was more just the way they treated her, in terms of like she had no food. The women were very mean to her, but she wrote a whole thing that got published like 4 times on that situation. And then they had this big meeting together on Redemption Rock. It was like 50 feet west of Redemption Rock. It shows you the exact spot there. And that's where they ransomed to send her back to her husband.
If anyone is... Sorry, the stream just died on Twitch. I don't know why. I'm just making sure we're still live on YouTube. It looks like we are. That was weird. Sorry about that. Let me just post this over.
Fix it on Twitch.
I don't know how to fix it on Twitch, so I'm just going to post in the chat. Yes. Chat amongst yourselves while I fix this.
So what do you think ended up happening with Lucy? Do you have your own personal theory, or one that you lean towards the most?
So I just, it's tough to believe the deathbed confession thing. If you read into it, Tilly Littlejohn, I know I said Tilly John in the video. I said the name wrong. It's Tilly Littlejohn. So there's a lot that people are saying doesn't add up. Like, one of the main things that people are saying is like, well, Tilly Littlejohn couldn't have been in a land dispute with her father because he wasn't old enough to own property. Well, that is true. But if you dig into how old he was, at the time, you couldn't own property until you were 21. He was a month shy of being 21. So that doesn't mean that he wasn't already negotiating for where he wanted to buy land. You know what I mean? Like, right. He could have been telling him, like, I want to purchase. The guy had over 200 acres. So he might have been trying to set up a deal to purchase land from him. And, you know, that could have been the land dispute. It could have been a family land dispute. It doesn't have to be something that he owned. So like that one, I don't buy. They're saying that the deathbed confession happened in New York, but he wasn't in New York on his deathbed. So people are saying that's not right. But
Lunatics are always confessing to shit they didn't do.
Yeah. It's a strange deathbed confession. Now, did he name, like, I was the one who killed Lucy Keys?
yes,
Yeah, that was the.
yeah, he said it on his deathbed. He made sure to get somebody from Princeton in the room with him so that they would know what he was talking about. And the problem with the Times is everything became sort of word of mouth. There is some written documentation, but it's not foolproof. So it became like a he said, she said type deal. So that's where it's all just getting kind of like passed down. But I did read an article from a guy who like tracked down to see how much of this he could actually debunk. And a lot of it adds up, like more so than they are saying that it adds up. So like I said, the whole land dispute thing, there's the age thing, there's where he was, that he was able to basically age thing there.
Sorry.
Basically able to debunk a lot of that. I mean, there's still some stuff that doesn't add up completely, but it could be that. So for me, it's if that story though is true of the merchants that found a tribe close to Canada with a white girl that could barely speak English because she was so young when she went missing, and the only thing that she could say, like as far where she was from, was Chusett Mountain.
Yeah, I feel like they should have looked more into that.
Well, the father went there.
Really?
So the father rode up there when he heard the story. So he rode up there, but he couldn't find the tribe. So that was the problem with that. Like,
That's the story that I found the most likely, personally,
Yeah.
rather than the. So she might not even, like, the tragedy of the story might not even have been her, although abducted by strangers is sad. But if they raised her amongst them, it's obviously not ideal, but it's not.
It's ideal over getting beaten to death or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely the least treacherous or the least horrible ending possible. So if that's the case, I mean, the real tragedy is the story of the mother.
Right.
Yeah.
But the mother is technically, for all intents and purposes, the main ghost that gets.
The main ghost, right?
So like regardless of what happened to Lucy, other than sometimes people seeing the footprints, that's the only thing I could find about anything in relation to actually Lucy Keys as a ghost, is footprints. Everything else is about Martha. They see Martha, they hear her calling out for Lucy. She went like certifiably insane.
She did
when she never stopped looking. They said she would be disheveled. She would act like she was deranged. They would just find her in the woods looking for Lucy. So that's who the main focus on this ghost story is, more so than Lucy. Lucy was the catalyst for Martha becoming a ghost. So
yeah, I mean, you never really get over that. So your story, as opposed to the other stories that I read, was actually everything was pretty spot on. But they had said that like once her two sisters set out, she followed right behind them, which makes me think maybe the mother knew, and I guess she just couldn't catch up to him with her little legs.
No, they weren't sure she followed. That was one of their theories. Was they were just trying to think of where she could have went, and she was told to stay put.
Right.
She was told to stay at the house, and they think that when the sisters went down to the lake, she tried to follow behind.
Yeah, because she must have either gotten lost or
right. So that she couldn't keep up with them, or she was trying to hide. You know how kids will like try to hide behind them the whole way and follow. She could have been doing something like that. I mean, what else are you gonna? It's 17, whatever. What is this girl doing? Like to entertain herself, other than trying to go do what her sisters are doing. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I mean, that could be. I think that story is more plausible. I think that's more what people are. That's more of what I've seen. I know that the whole she definitely was following her sister's thing, but that is not what the other records are stating from other people.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I pulled up a ghost story, someone that experienced it. It says, I was camping with my family overnight in Princeton. The date was June 17th of 2008. It was 7:30 at night. My 2 children were asleep and my husband too before I had my second child that I had, but it died. Okay. Suddenly, when I was laying in my tent awake, I heard a voice whispering quietly saying, "Mummy, Mummy, I want to be with you." The next morning, I said to my husband, "Darling, did you hear anything last night?" He said, "No, dear." Do couples actually talk to each other like this? No, dear. I didn't. Why? What's wrong? I just said because I think that he would believe me. And the other night, I heard it too. How strange. That wasn't a very well constructed paragraph, but
Also, they got the ghost wrong. You got the wrong ghost.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's the ghost of a child as well.
I mean, there have been the
possible.
footprints thing, but that was the only thing I had seen about Lucy being.
Oh, so she posted this not knowing the story of Lucy Keys, and then someone else commented it says this is there's a famous ghost story from Princeton that I know of. It's so popular that there's even been a movie made about it. The ghostly disembodied voice of a woman yelling, "Lucy, Lucy," can be heard on Wachusett Mountain at night. This is the voice of Mrs. Martha Keys, whose daughter Lucy went missing in the 1750s. Martha died without ever finding out what happened to her 4-year-old daughter, so she is condemned to looking for her in the afterlife.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe she's walking. So Martha is actually not buried in her own grave. So the grave site that Rob had put in there, the visual of her gravestone that's in Princeton, she is actually buried in Leominster on her family's plot. So maybe her ghost is wandering around because she doesn't have a legitimate burial site.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering about that when I visited, so I'm glad you found that because she's not buried next to her husband. Like she's not next to Rob. I mean, well, that gravestone, anyways, isn't next to Robert. It's next to another one, which I assumed was some sort of relative, but I know
My
she had
guess
more
is the
children.
family had their own burial plot in Leominster. What is it, a town or two over?
Yeah,
And she was like, "No, bury me here."
yeah.
Or I don't know. Or if she's not buried there, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, because even if you look at the gravestone that Rob had taken the video of, it doesn't say like "here lies" or whatever. It just says "in memory of Martha Keys."
Oh, yeah.
So it looks like it's just a memorial.
A lot of the stones there say that. It was
Okay.
one of the things I was noticing as I was walking around that it's a really cool graveyard, not easily accessible. Like it's right off a main road, but there's no parking, nothing. So like this isn't like you have to park right off the road on this main road to get to it. But it's clearly not an active, like they're not still burying people there. And a lot of them say "in memory" rather than "here lies" or anything like that.
Maybe nobody's buried there. Maybe it's just a memorial ground.
Might be. There are some like actual crypts too, but I mean, obviously,
I would wager to say there are definitely people buried there, but maybe not. I don't know. That'd be weird to have a whole graveyard with just memory plaques. So it seems a little redundant, especially when they're
so
somewhere else.
I'm actually shocked that we hadn't heard this story before, because like that little blurb that you read, there was a movie. It wasn't a big movie, but there was a movie made on it. It's not like this is far from us. It's an hour, maybe a little more. So you would think that like with all the ghost stuff that we hear about, this is a story that we would have known, and I didn't know about it.
I had never heard about it. You did mention that you were going to speak with the director. Did you ever chat with the director or no?
I had a very busy week of work last week, and then by the time I emailed him back, I didn't hear back from him in time before I was putting the episode together. So I still haven't heard back from him. So I didn't want to just like cold call. He gave me his number, but I didn't want to cold call him and be like, "Hey, maybe."
You just got to keep calling and calling and calling until he picks up.
Yeah, and just do my Lucy. Just play my little Lucy.
Yeah. So you watched the movie.
I did.
Where did you find the movie if people want to check it out?
I think it was on Tubi. It's one of those. It was on one of the free streaming apps.
Okay.
So like, I think it was Tubi. I'm pretty sure that's what it was on.
So are we at this point pushing people to pirate the movie from Tubi, or is it not one of those sites?
That's not a.
I think it's on Amazon Prime also.
Tubi is legit. It's not a pirate.
Okay.
It's like
I've never used it. I just want to check.
it's like an app. It's basically just an app that has tons of movies and stuff, and it might play some ads for you in the middle of the movie. But yeah, Tubi is legit.
All right. And I think it was called The Legend of Lucy Keys, right?
Yeah. I mean, it does. I mean, it's a movie, so it does take some liberties with the story, obviously, but you have to because, I mean, what else are you going to do to fill out an entire movie?
There's it strays away from the story a bit, right? Because I think I don't want to spoil the movie for anyone, but I believe you said that they found a body at the end of the movie or something.
I don't want to spoil the movie, but here's the end of it.
Yeah. I didn't say whose body. Just said they found a body. So that's the whole movie for you. Anyways. Well, I was just saying, like, this was a little bit different than the actual story, right?
I assume it's like most movies, which are completely different from the actual story.
So all the stuff regarding Lucy Keys is like pretty spot on. I mean, like I would say like it follows the tale as well as it can. It's obviously incorporating like a family that's not real, but like anything that's regarding Lucy's story is pretty much spot on in the movie. So
okay.
That's cool. Like they follow that pretty much, until, I don't want to spoil the ending, but until they find her body at the end.
That's whose body it was. Oh.
Yeah. So like, I mean, obviously that didn't happen, but yeah. So they changed the name of the neighbors of Tilly Littlejohn to a different person too, probably just for liability reasons or something. I'm sure you can't just go throwing accusations about families like that in a movie.
But while we're ruining the whole movie, which approach did they take with the did they take one of the approaches that we talked about or something different, like where it was either the Native American tribe, the guy with the deathbed confession?
Oh no, they went with
animals.
It was the neighbor. It was.
Oh, they were the neighbors. Ah.
Well, the guy Tilly Littlejohn, like I said, but they changed his name in the movie. It's a different name.
Is the name just as ridiculous?
I don't even remember it. But his ancestor is played by one of the guys from Sons of Anarchy, so that was cool.
Nice.
Yeah, isn't Justin Theroux in the movie also?
Yeah, Justin Theroux's in the movie too. What else is he from? Because I can't even. I know the name. Did you ever
watch what the heck was that show? On HBO, was it on HBO or Showtime, where like a whole bunch of people just like straight up disappeared?
Oh no, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was
I saw that. Good. Yeah, I saw a few episodes. I don't think I finished the whole show, but
it was good.
I mean, this movie is older too, though. It's 2005, 2006 or something. So the director is from the town. Well, not from the town. He moved to the town, and he started experiencing things.
That's cool.
So he started experiencing things. He didn't know the history, and he started like talking to people from around town, and they were like, "Oh yeah, here's this whole story," and that's what got him to write and direct this movie. So, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, good for him for following through, and he's done other movies as well. But like, that's
I think when you can craft something off of something that you've experienced, you know what I mean, where it's like people who direct movies off of like towns that they lived in for a little bit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Stephen King's made a whole career out of just basing everything, New
England,
in New England, being around stuff that he knows. And
we went up there to I think it's like where was it?
Bangor.
I think it was it was like the town that he based everything off of, but they never really filmed anything. Derry. Yeah, that was
Derry's the town that he bases everything. That's the fake town, yeah.
Well, it's a real town, but it's forget, I might be getting this wrong, but whatever town he based all his stuff off of, we went and randomly got an Airbnb up there like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, it does kind of look like the towns from like
He based his
Shawshank and
stuff in
like
New
that,
England. He's got different
but he usually
towns.
films in like Ohio and stuff though. But anyways, we looked it up and we went to one of them, and it was it was cool. It had, and I don't know if it was just because all we were thinking about was Stephen King at that time, but it had that kind of vibe with like, you know, the older brick buildings and everything like that, and the little diners and everything. It was kind of cool. Definitely a small town. Definitely not a reason that you would ever go up there for any other reason than because this is the Stephen King town. But there wasn't a gimmicky town. They didn't brand a bunch of stuff after Stephen King, but it was still a cool stay.
I think that's my least, like, just coming to terms with like looking up a lot of these, you know, this is off of, we're done with kind of talking about Lucy Keys, but just general talk. The thing that I don't like the most about these haunted places that are letting you sleep there and stay there, and, you know, I understand you have to set the atmosphere a little bit, but I think a lot of them go too overboard with their presentation of the house.
Yep.
They don't understand that the location itself is scary. Like, the location is the draw. So
Right. And they
when
ruined like touristy bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm in a gift shop.
right,
exactly.
right. So I think that's the problem with some of these. I did watch. It depends on the room, though. I was watching something on the Sally House, which we'll be doing at some point. Not sure when. I do plan on doing the Sally House, but the Sally House, for the most part, just looks like a regular house, which is what it was. And the main haunting in that house was in the nursery, and that room they set it back up as a nursery, but that makes sense to me because that's where you got your paranormal. They didn't go nuts with it. They just set everything up that was in that nursery before. And I think that's fine. But when you're adding unnecessary stuff to these haunted houses, I think you're killing the mood more than you're enhancing it.
You're draining that authentic feeling of terror that the building comes with inherently.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, if you want to look at a city that does it right, look at like Salem, Massachusetts, where you have the whole town is themed after witches and Halloween and stuff like that. Even the police cars drive around, they have witches painted on the side of them and stuff like that. So you could look at Salem and be like, well, look at that. They're taking advantage of that. But
It's
when
the
you go to
exception
the
rule.
well, because when you go to the actual historical locations, the different houses, the House of Seven Gables, like the other houses out there that are supposed to be haunted, those are still to a T as they were, because they're historical sites. So they haven't changed a thing. That all the furniture is still super old. They don't have, you know, like there isn't little, you know, you know, ghouls and goblins hanging on the walls or anything like that. It's just like everything is authentic there. But outside you have the whole, you know, all the fun stuff. But what they did right, I think, was keeping the locations authentic and keeping them true to what they are. And you walk into those places and you get creeped out just because it's a creepy ass place, which is what I wish that a lot of these other places would do as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to be talking more about this in a future episode, but I just I don't know what made me bring that up, but yes, that's.
No, you're right. Yeah, something we talk about all the time with these places.
Yeah.
All right. So next week, Dave, your episode is what?
The Bel Air House, Bel Air, Ohio.
Tell me more.
It is a house from the 1800s that was haunted. Sits right on an Indian burial ground and above a coal mine that exploded and collapsed back in the 1800s and killed, I think, 50 people.
Nice.
And also took place in
nice
in one of the battleground areas of the French and Indian War. So I feel like somebody else mentioned lots of stuff around here.
That's a really sweet story.
My favorite was when you said that 50 people died and Jesse just nice.
That's so cute. All right. And then we're going to drop the Conjuring episode. We've been talking about it.
I think people understand, though. We have 6 hours of live footage to go through on 2 different cameras.
Yeah,
We're gonna go
Actually,
through 6
more than
hours of
that.
live footage to put together a 3-minute.
yeah, exactly. So we'll come up with something cool for that one. We have San Antonio, which we briefly mentioned earlier. This is going to be an interesting one. Going to get Andrew involved in this one. Mr. Captain McSlugs, he was here in the
We're the ghosts of the Alamo.
Ghosts of the Alamo. Oh, yes. Yes. So what was funny about the Alamo is our hotel was basically on top of the Alamo. We stayed at the Emily Morgan Hotel like we said we were going to do. It did not disappoint. I don't want to spoil anything for the episode, but I will say it did not disappoint. We had a hell of a time out there. But we basically were sitting on top of the Alamo, which, by the way, is free to get in. We didn't know that. And we stopped into the Alamo about an hour before our flight. Imagine we were out there for 4 days. And we almost blew it. We almost never went to the Alamo because we just kept doing other things.
Yep. Well, there's this huge line. So we were intimidated by the line. We're like, I will do it later. We'll do it later. We'll do it later. And then almost didn't.
Yeah.
And that would have been stupid.
Yeah, so Captain
But
Captain McSlugs will be bringing on a special guest.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I know who.
The special guest is en route right now. He's due to arrive on Friday. It's very exciting.
And I'm working.
Possibly a witch as a special guest as well. Possibly.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
We have a
no,
witch.
we do. We have a witch.
We just have a witch.
We do. It's
We
a
have
man
witch that we met in a man witch that we met
Great sandwich.
that we met in San Antonio. Gave us some pretty good insight into the occult.
I'm working on a 2-part episode of, I think it's Alton, Illinois.
No.
Illinois
No,
is.
you're not going to keep doing this.
It's
Illinois. Welcome back, Rob.
wow, timing me up. It's very, very mean.
Jesse would get Illinois real easy.
We should end the stream.
Lots of giggles tonight.
Oh yeah.
Well,
all right, yeah. So you got that 2-part episode coming up, and that's that. So, yeah, I think we're gonna let's crank it out. Let's work hard. And oh no, so you said you're gonna do that episode next week. We could talk about this off stream. We have episodes coming up every Tuesday, brand new episodes. So you just tune in. You just get here on Tuesday night. You watch whatever we put in front of you.
just watch all of it. And
That's
if
right.
you listen to us on the podcast, it drops on Wednesdays. So
true.
watch us on Tuesdays, listen to us on Wednesdays. And
This is how we do it now. We're very aggressive and assertive with our
it's our,
demands.
our new marketing strategy.
All right, that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been episode number 7 of Hometown Ghost Stories. Check us out next week. We'll be back next Tuesday. Another very exciting episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Rob, nice job on the video, which, by the way, was a little bit buggy in the first minute, but we don't have to pretend that.
We'll fix it.
Yeah, we'll fix it. All right, we'll see you guys.
Hey guys, I'm Jesse Wilkins from Hometown Ghost Stories. I want to thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see when we go live again. Also, if you're interested, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Lots of cool perks. You can get your name in the credits, customized videos, join us on the live stream. Lots of cool stuff there. So head on over to Patreon, check out Hometown Ghost Stories. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. All the links are available below. And we'll see you guys next time for another episode of Hometown Ghost Stories.